motives for migration to alternatives to migration. And then, of course, we are looking at how can we work towards improving the local living conditions in Africa that will allow our people to stay home, not sacrifice just too much. And you may be aware that the continent bears such a terrible image, a continent of suffering, of poverty, hopelessness, joblessness, war, conflict, and all these kind of things. And xenophobia is one very strong identity that we bear as Africans. But can we become the alternative to all this kind of negative identity as we see in the continent?
I would like to begin slightly on a tangent, thinking about what we talked about yesterday, and mention just a couple of online resources that I've developed with my colleagues, which I think might be useful to some of you. One is a knowledge exchange training pack. It's a freely available online resource. It's in French and English. It's 160 pages. It's got 4 sections. You can dip in and use whichever section is useful. And it's about engaging youth and refugees. It could be applied across many groups, and engaging them and training them so that they can take part in events like this, knowledge exchange events with stakeholders. Excuse me. The other one is an online resource. It's a web app. It's a bit like a website, and it was developed with Street Youth in Accra in May this year. They gathered a lot of data about what it's like to live in the street. So if you could have a look at that, it's called Growing Up on the Streets, and it's a story to the Accra's street youth. So I think both of those are hopefully useful to you. So let me know what you think of them if you can when we get back home. In terms of reasons to stay, the project that I represent is Growing Up in Protracted Crises. It's a 1-year project. It's funded by the Department for International Development in the UK. And it's looking at refugee experiences in Uganda and Jordan. So in terms of reasons to stay, obviously we're talking about growing up, what it's like to transition into adulthood in those contexts. So what I want to do is give an introduction to that, their experiences, which hopefully will help to set the context. So participants firstly are traumatized by the experience of journey into their host country, into becoming a refugee. They've witnessed death, violence and rape, or experienced some of those things themselves. So the pathways to adulthood are interrupted by their experiences of moving into a refugee status, and they're no longer able to achieve the key markers or transitions into adulthood. They don't happen in the expected order. They're not able to complete their education, which all participants in Uganda and Jordan felt was vitally important. And they're not able to find employment. They're not able to achieve marriage and family life and build a home. So I would encourage you also to speak to the refugees that are with us today. Peter, for example, I spoke to yesterday, and his experiences perfectly mirror those of the refugees that participated in our study, which, by the way, was run by refugees themselves and partner organizations. So that's the key pathways to adulthood are interrupted. So in terms of reasons to stay, I suppose what I'm interested in is also reasons to stay in the host country as well as their home country. And it's also important to bear in mind that refugees are motivated to move onwards once they become a refugee, once they've begun on that journey. So they're motivated to move onwards and not backwards. And this is because the protracted nature of conflict in their home country may still be dangerous. Their connections have moved on, their assets have disappeared. They may have been very young when they left their home country, which obviously more than half of refugees are under 18. And they also have connections in other countries. The Congolese refugees in Uganda had connections in about 7 or 8 other countries. And the refugees in Jordan had connections in 19 other countries, including many in Germany and the USA. So these are just things to bear in mind when we consider how we get people to stay in their home country. And hopefully that's helped to set some kind of context to our discussion.
Thank you very much. You are the perfect timekeeper, and I just hold the microphone for 1 more minute. I would want to ask you, last year I was speaking somewhere in New York, and then the kid asked me, why did you grow so tall in Africa? And I said, why shouldn't I grow tall? Then she said, according to research and studies and media, shows that in Africa, children are dying of poverty, of hunger, lions are everywhere. How comes you have grown so tall? So the question is, do you think researchers and documentations of African situation is doing justice or injustice? Whose stories, who is legitimizing the African story? Is it being told in the interest of justice or to make sure the content is more vulnerable?
Well, I think from our experience in research it's so important to get young people, African people, refugees themselves investigating their own stories, telling their own stories. Obviously, we can help to facilitate that. We have the technology and some experience as well to contribute. And in terms of the young researchers I've met in the Growing Up in the Streets project and Growing Up in Protracted Crises, some of them are quite tall. There's one guy in Accra who's similar build to yourself. He's grown up in the streets, he lives in the streets, he's very resilient, and that's just one example. So we're tall.
Oh, thank you very much. And yeah, we can make it another areas of exploration in the next discussion. Thank you. May I have the mic to Esther, Ambassador for Women and Girls, Uganda. What about men, first of all?
Thank you very much. I think the time is now for African nations to make the youth active shareholders in their own nations and countries. The youth should be placed at the stage of development processes rather than being passive recipients of services. There's like a project that has come up, some money is there for the youth to do something, and the youth don't own up projects. So when the youth don't own up these projects, the project comes, and when the implementers go away, they go with the projects, and the youth also disappear. And trust me, if the youth are engaged effectively, they will jealously guard these projects and defend what belongs to them. And even in the hard times, migration will never take the options. Trust me. There will always be, what should we do? How far can we go? What can we prevent where? And migration will only come in sense of fun and adventure, not settling and looking for greener pastures. We all know that few things dangerous than a man who has nothing to lose or someone who has nothing to lose. Now, the world's population has 3/4 young people, and half of these young people have no jobs, have no money, no parents, no mother, no wife, no nothing, and with holding a gun and shooting someone, what do you lose? And those who have the energy will hold the guns. Those who cannot hold the guns will go on the... And the world characterizes young people as vulnerable. What do you call us? Marginalized. What else do you call the young people? And we are having 3/4 of the world's population, for God's sake. Now, when will this ever get better? I mean, if the world's biggest population is vulnerable. So let us own our projects. Please do not ignore us. We are the future. You know that. Am I being right? Please, Victor, with my height, tell I'm not almost dying of hunger because you're very tall. Mm-hmm. We are the same. I think young people should be empowered from school to community, and we should own everything that comes up. We should be priority #1. Yes. Also, a sense of patriotism. What is patriotism? What do you people understand by patriotism? Someone give me an answer.
Love for Uganda.
Love for Uganda.
What happened to us being patriotic? I believe when you're patriotic, even when a problem comes in, what comes to your mind? When you love your country, what comes into your mind? My mother from Ghana was saying, when children are born in Ghana, the first thing they are thinking about is migrating. Are they patriotic?
Yes.
They are. Why are they? If in their country they don't feel comfortable, when you're born, you're thinking of taking a step elsewhere. Do you love your country?
Yes.
Please.
Because when you go, you gain a very famous status. Okay. You have been abroad.
Oh.
And then you bring back money. So you are in another class altogether.
Wow.
And the reason for us migrating is lack of jobs, poor social services, all that. And that rounds us back to poor governance. And yesterday, my friend Wayne was representing the EU, and she said the EU is helping us to do a quick fix of things. And she said she's going to disappoint most of us, but issues dealing with governance, there is little that is going to be done. But remember, this comes back to governance. And with quick fixing, when are we going to stop quick fixing stuff? I mean, the problems come up and you'll always quick fix. I think we need to take a bigger risk now. And the EU has the strong mechanical hand. Please, quick fixing things, not anymore. We have fixed things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Ambassador for Women and Girls. And I would ask a question, but maybe I can do that after. I was going to ask, because there has been this discussion around patriotism and nationalism. There is one which is a little bit partisan, and the other one which is a little bit human, giving a human face and all these kind of things. Don't you think a more politicized development agenda risk isolating or marginalizing some section of the society? Anyway, we can talk about that later on, after Joselyn, the head of gender and development at Young African Refugee for Integral Development, Uganda. Sounds fantastic, and I think it's really something we can. What compels young Africans to leave home? Let's not also talk about only crossing to Europe, but also within Africa. We are seeing many young Africans moving. If you see, more African youth would want to move towards South Africa. And why? From Nigeria to, to Uganda, to places like that. So let's not talk about only EU African migration, but also internal movement. This is more challenging, and even not everybody can cross the sea. So what compels us to do that?
For one, I would say we are all refugees. We are all migrants. Initially, the refugee was associated with color, being black. You know that all refugees, all migrants are coming from Africa, so they're all black. When it came to Asia, now it changed from color to religion. So it was all about religion now. And I'm sure in a few years' time, they will move to gender. The refugee issue will be about gender. And you have to start from the context, our own country. Why do people move from the village to the urban area? That's already migration. Why do they move from the village to the urban area? Why? One, they want a better life due to unemployment, better schools, better health care, better infrastructure, which is not found in the rural areas. The same applies to moving from Uganda or to the other part of Africa or Asia or Europe. All this, and then the other thing is technology. Social media has played a very big role. This is something I talked about earlier. It has played a big role in trying to promote and show that where you are is not good enough. You need another place to make your life better. Like your environment is not good enough. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, it doesn't have escalators, it doesn't have all these things. So the youth are forced to look for that extra experience. hence the move. And then also the family pressure, like I said, like as Africans, you know, we have responsibility to take care of our communities. We are communal, we live in a community. So once someone has graduated, maybe the whole community, all your relatives contributed to your undergrad degree, now it's time to take care of the rest of the family. And in a situation where there is high unemployment, what do? You look for greener pastures to try and take care of the rest of the family. Then also the wage disparities. If you notice, and I'm sure my sister will be able to help me on that, when it comes to employment, from my experience here, like most of the employment is not about merit. You get? You need to know someone to be able to go and do that job. You have people who are over 70 years plus, but they're still doing jobs that the youth would be doing. So what happens? You have that large number of youth, but they're all unemployed. The places that they would employ, it's taken over by all these people who are beyond, you know? So what happens? You're forced to look elsewhere. You have the skills, there are job opportunities there, but you can't access them. What do? And with all the responsibilities that you have. Then the other thing is the welfare system in Europe, you know, that everything can be given to you. You have accommodation, you have healthcare, you have all these things, food, you can easily access these things, you know. So at the end of the day, if you're looking at a youth who has finished, has graduated, no job, struggling to survive, and then the first thing that will be is to risk crossing the Mediterranean to be able to access free accommodation, healthcare, and food. Because right now on the ground, he or she doesn't have those things. We have young girls who are going to Abu Dhabi, you know, and you hear all those stories of how they are treated in Abu Dhabi. But what are they looking for at the end of it all, you know? So, and you know, so when we go into how can we be able to reduce that, you know, those are some of the things I already talked about earlier. You know, first and foremost is we need to support the youth as they are, like in their initiatives. The youth, especially when it comes to implementation on the ground, use a community-based approach, human-centered design approach, you know? Like identify, come up with an idea, go and consult the youth themselves. Let them own the projects. Let them be responsible for their own actions. They shouldn't look at it like, oh, it's ACT now that brought this program, it's UNHCR that brought this program, it's the government program. No, let them own it. And through owning it, that's when they'll be able to change their lives in that kind of way. And then if I'm to talk about our organization, we started it, I was the only Ugandan. I talked about education. I only came to know about the refugee crisis when I was at university in my second year, when I had to do internship with an organization that works with refugees. But in my whole entire life, I never knew anything about refugees. I didn't know anything that like such a word existed until that time. And from then, we joined with some 3 Congolese refugees to set up the GERALD as an organization. But it was to bring the youth together. We decided, okay, as refugees themselves, what can they do? Don't wait for UNHCR. And this is in the urban area. Because as Bella said, UNHCR doesn't support refugees in the urban area. Mainly, the services are mostly in the settlement. So what did we do? We decided to come up, we asked the youth, what can you do? But by then, there was conflict between the host community and then the refugees themselves, between themselves. So we're looking at peace building, we're looking at fighting idleness, because many of them are getting involved in prostitution, drug abuse. But this was happening, and we're all youth. We said, what can we do? We started with sports. We said, okay, if different people are playing together on the same team, I'm sure there will be a reduction in that kind of conflict. So we started with sports. And we didn't have any resources. We went, consulted the church. We asked if we could use their pitch, and they allowed us. So every evening, the youth would come, play. Then that's when we'd discuss issues of reproductive health, any employment opportunities. We had a church that we were using as our office. And the next thing was language barrier. What can we do? We started the English classes. And we didn't have any resources. So we had to identify someone who would volunteer to teach the English classes. And that's how we've been moving. And the next thing they said, okay, now we have English, we have sports, what else? We went for the vocational skills. We started tailoring the tailoring skill. And this was the only way we managed to set up the tailoring center is we involved ourselves in a global giving campaign where we won $1,500. That was our first ever fund. That was in 2013 since we started in 2007. So for all those years, it was all about volunteership scheme, but by the youth themselves. So we bought some 5 machines, we rented a place, and then we had over 40 women who were using machines in tons to practice. And I'm proud to say that even the outfit I'm wearing is made by one of the refugee women from the center. Okay, so at the end of it all, like with vocational skills, then we also introduced ICT because we're dealing with the youth, with social media and then computer. Well, like how can they get employment? So we went into ICT. And we also set up that. We teach computer classes where they learn how you got basic computer skills. So we have English, we have vocational skills, then we went for the job placement program. Like after that, we identify job opportunities, then we refer them to those places, we help them with their CVs. You know, that's what I said, that if you train someone, you just leave them with a skill, but there's nothing, there's no market, there's nothing. What are they going to do with that skill? So those are things that we are doing, but mainly our target was integration and self-reliance. To integrate the refugees into the host community and also to make them self-reliant and sustainable. You know? And these are all youth. And we have had over 3,000 people who have gone through our program. Yeah, but we also involve the nationals. And in that regard, we have had about several people have got resettlement in Canada, in America, and have come back. They have come back to set up projects here and they don't even want to go back. You get? But these are people who are refugees, they got resettlement, but now they have come back, they realize that they can make their lives right here.
Yeah, we need to get going on with the time. But again, one point that we should ask ourselves also, how comes all international resettlement happens in the West? Why don't we have also other people seeking resettlement to Africa? This may be one thing we could also not many. I have never had any Iraqis seeking to be resettled to Uganda or some other places, even despite the good policy that we do have. I know they are there, but it's not into the prominence like the way Africans seek resettlement in Canada and all over the world. So let me cut you short on that, and I will. Your story is the journey is very similar to what I know of my commander-in-chief here, the most well-dressed man in the panel, and he's going to try to share with us a little bit of picking from what you have talked about, your journey, from how you started to where you are. MUHAMMED, I hope I'm pronouncing it well. Thank you, Joselyn. So he's the Islam ambassador and the co-founder of AFCAD, Uganda. Islam ambassador. Why Islam? Why are you not Uganda's ambassador to Netherlands?
Okay, because I had to migrate from Boise Islam to come and attend this conference as speaker.
Okay, that is good. That internal migration is important. But now back to, picking from what my sister talked about, which is also similar to, I know about your organization a little bit. We have issues where somebody talked about it before, that not until young people have nothing to lose, they're not fear to live, they're not fear to destroy. Either they go or they destroy what is available. I know you're doing some empowerment program for this kind of people, and slums, given the global definition of extremism and all this kind of thing, you know, is treated as the most unsecure community within the urban setup. So why do you do what you do, and how do you think you're making a progress in terms of controlling this movement and all that? Are you attracting people to move from villages to slums, or what is it going on?
Thank you. The poor stay awake because they are hungry. And yet the rich can't sleep because the poor are awake.
I did not get it. Yeah, okay, that's it. That is very good. Thank you.
The poor stay awake because they are hungry. And yet the rich can't sleep because the poor are awake. Keep thinking about that. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from Boise, which is the most depressed slum community in Kampala, and that's a place where all things are possible. In 2009, I co-founded Action for Fundamental Change and Development that is helping to transform lives in the slum areas of Kampala through health, education, and economic empowerment. A lot has been said with trying to empower young people, but basically for our program is we take young people through vocational training, skills development, 7 of them. I'm also happy to say that the 2 of them are here trying to cover whatever is taking place, and they were also paid to be here to cover this. So they are our graduates. So giving them a skill, they go ahead and learn entrepreneurship. If you learn photography and film, how do you do photography and film as a business? So they get to learn entrepreneurship, how to develop a business. And then at the end of the day, they get professional development. How do you run a business professionally? How do you recruit? How do you run a business on a daily, timekeeping, management, code of dress? Then we go ahead and provide them with startup tools at the end of the training. So when our young people complete 6 months of the training, they go ahead and get startup toolkits that help them to start up a business in the different 7 vocational training programs that we provide that include tailoring and fashion, computer graphics, we have film, we have beauty therapy, and also we have electrical installation and ushering and decoration, plus the rest. We go ahead and help women and young people still in the communities that we come from, and those are slum areas around Kampala, to help them form groups and establish cooperatives. We go ahead and provide them with financial literacy. Still about saving, about microloans, and then we go ahead and formulate these groups, establish them, owned by the community, and then we start looking for people who can support them to, to get investment capital so that they can run their own businesses. We get experts that train them how to start up a business, and they mobilize their own monies and save, and then we get other people that support them more. The other thing that we've done is that we are also trying to empower communities where our young people come from, and this is specifically communities like Kisenyi, where we are establishing another vocational training center that is going to tap into Katwe. And this is where our brothers, mostly from the neighboring countries, come from because of the crisis. So we are hoping that we are going to duplicate the same model. But what's strange in these communities is that a lot of people do not really understand why our brothers and sisters, amongst all countries, choose Uganda. And of all places in Uganda, they choose Kampala. And I don't know why they choose some of these places where I come from, but it's an issue. But the community itself needs to know, to understand these things and welcome these people, and also be able to, live in harmony and peace. So we are doing a huge campaign after we establish our vocational training center by December this year. We'll do a huge campaign in Kisenyi and other slum areas around Kampala in the 5 divisions on making people understand why we have our brothers from another mother. We think through that model of trying to empower young people between 16 to 25 that are out of school, that come from the different countries. We are going to help them ably live in Uganda by finding jobs themselves, by creating jobs themselves, but also creating opportunities, helping them access finance that can also help them to establish their own jobs, but also be at the forefront of changing their lives. I mean, we're trying to empower them so that they can be happily living in Uganda and also supporting the community as well. And we also think that they're the very first people that can start to establish dialogue or be part of the dialogues that happen in the community to help us, the host community, and them understand very well the issues around, the issues that combine us as people, despite of the situations and challenges that bring them in.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Before you hand over the mic, I want you to tell us a little bit more about, because you talked about tapping talents to keep it home. Most of you could have watched the last Olympic competition in Brazil. There was one particular race where the top 4 finishers were all Africans, but none of them was representing Africa. None of them. One was UK, another one was Canada, another one was Australia, another one was somewhere. Yet they were Ethiopians, Somalians, and Eritreans, and if you to look more, imagine if all the Olympic gold medals won in Brazil were to go to the countries of origin, 86% of the gold medals would have come to Africa. But we are losing them because of the situation at hand. But I'm glad that you are giving space. I probably won't have to ask you any question right now. Let me just take away the mic and hand over to somebody else. And I will get back to the audience also discuss more with that. Going to GERALD ABILA, the founder of Barefoot Law. Uganda, are you bare? Okay, you're wearing something.
Shoes today.
Oh yeah, what makes this barefoot and why?
Okay, I'll start off with 2 things. One is you mentioned something about migration being from Africa to Europe, but there are times in history when there was migration from Europe to Africa. In Uganda particularly, during the Second World War, we had tens of thousands of refugees from Poland in Mukono, in Mukono and around Masindi, I think. Then we also had what was called the Uganda Plan, which was an attempt by the British in the colonial days to resettle Jews to Karamoja. So it's just a matter of time. But refugees and migrants, migration happens both ways. For now, it's the other way. And then secondly, being a lawyer, I'm a storyteller. And one of the stories that really captivated me was about this hotel itself, Speak Hotel. I don't know how many of you have seen the painting at the entrance as you're entering in the hotel. Do you know how old Speak was when he discovered the source of the Nile? When he discovered the source of the Nile? When he found the source of the Nile. Yeah. Any idea? No, he was 35. And he started his journey much earlier than that. He started being an explorer, I think, at 17. And he came and met Kabaka Mwanga. Do you know how old Mwanga was? 17. And he had just taken over from Kabaka Mutesa, who had just died. He was 19. Mutesa too also was a young guy, I think 19 or 20. His statute is just at the roundabout before the hotel. So I want us, the youth today, to disabuse this notion that youth are leaders of tomorrow, because this continent itself is a continent that was built and created by youth. The challenges we are facing as youth today is different from the challenges the youth then faced, and it's something I'll touch on in my presentation. I'll try and be brief because of time. My name is GERALD ABILA, as Victor introduced. We happen to come from the same town in Lira, and it's a pleasure being here and being in front of him. I started an organization called Barefoot Law 5 years ago. Barefoot Law is now the biggest such initiative in East Africa that provides legal help using modern tools of technology, including the SMS, social media, the internet, and we're now moving slowly towards machine learning. When we started Barefoot Law, the average age at office was 23. None of us had yet gotten practice certificates in law. Today we have over 7, 8 advocates that are working at Barefoot Law with a monthly reach of over 400,000. handling around 1,000 cases. So, and we started off without any funding. And we did it in Uganda, in Africa, a continent that everyone thinks nothing is possible. And this is becoming a model for other parts of the world. So as was stated in the write-up, for those that have the paper, there are so many reasons to leave Africa, but there are many more reasons to stay. So I want us to, thank you. I want us to focus on the reasons to stay as opposed to focus on the reasons to leave. And today, I'll touch on two things. Many leave because the idea of the continent as a continent of hopelessness has been infused or has been pumped into them by the media that many religiously follow. One thing to try and get guys to migrate the other way, or to try and get guys to stay in the continent, is to try and show the positives that are happening in the continent. Things like the fastest growing economies are in this continent. The best weather, something Victor mentioned yesterday, 60% of uncultivated land that's arable is in this continent, and yet we still starve. The continent has the youngest population. A population that's young is a population that has potential. It's a population with the ability to dream. So why should we flee such a place? And yet it's a place of hope. So we need, each and everyone here has a role to play to try and extract the negatives in the minds of the youth, as well as try to impose the positives. Hopefully this will get many to stay. And then secondly, and finally for this session, is we need to equip our youth with skills. The youth in Africa is always, every youth conference I go to, or every youth event, everyone is talking about jobs and employment. Yesterday we came up with a list in the group sessions about challenges that the youth face, at least in our group. And employment was key. But while the youth in Africa are talking and asking about employment without the necessary skills, youth in other continents are developing machines that are going to keep you further unemployed. So as youth and as leaders in this continent, you have to start equipping yourself with skills that will still enable you to be relevant in this future that's coming, which is a future that's going to be highly influenced by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Already I saw the report I mentioned yesterday in Germany, where unemployment had sort of increased some time back, and part of it was because of machines. I think automation, something like that. So it's coming to the continent. We need to equip ourselves with necessary skills, otherwise we are going to be further unemployed. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. ABILA, Gerald, for a very wonderful word of wisdom that there are so many reasons to leave Africa, but there are many more reasons to stay. So guys, be ready. I will want to hear what is your allegiance you're willing to pledge towards Africa. Are you going to stay or go? I will stay. I always told myself that war displaced us for far too long in Africa. Now is the time to displace war forever from Africa. And this is the only generation that can do that. So let us recommit ourselves to, to making Africa a better place. Not making it great again, but making it the best place on earth. And I think, thank you so much. I'll give the opportunity to the audience to ask you questions. Going to Yusuf. I cannot pronounce your second name. Diakit, the chairperson, African Youth Diaspora in Europe. If someone hears this, they would want to go to Europe. It sounds very inviting and enticing.
You're welcome.
Visa, okay, fine. Now, I want to ask you, because it's been more about narrative of how situations are, but now we are more into what should we do to stay home? What should we do to encourage our young friends to stay home? Gerald mentioned something about the reasons as to the world always looked up to Africa. I was actually meeting with Desmond Tutu last year, and he said, always in the hardest moment of humanity, the world looked towards to Africa. And I asked him why. And then he said, I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible. At the moment when there was need for exodus from somewhere towards Africa, and people settled in Egypt, Israel settled in Egypt. And then he talked about that. Another point, there were moments when the world was lacking manpower to build their nations. They came and took slaves from Africa. It reached a moment when there were moments when the world was in need of more resources to enhance their technology and development. They came and colonized Africa. And now, being a nuclear-free continent, the world will be in need of a nuclear-free leadership, which probably we're the only continent without nuclear weapons, right? Which is good. I would be happily celebrating that. Let us remain nuclear-free forever. We are not ready to do mass destruction. So, coming back to you, you are living in nuclear-rich nation. So, what do we do to stay home?
What do you mean by home? To me, home is Vienna, home is Mali as well. Okay?
Africa, you know
Which
what I'm
one?
talking about.
My name is Yusuf. I'm very happy to be here again and talk about the motive and the alternative, why we should stay or why we should leave. You know, my organization, we are more focusing on youth employability and entrepreneurship skill development and migration. Those are the three topics we are really working regularly on it. But the motive why people are leaving Africa, from myself to many, is about the discrimination. We don't talk much about it. Only my brother from Nigeria was trying to explain yesterday, but I don't know if people got it really right. What do we mean by discrimination? Discrimination is we are all young people. We don't have enough job in Africa for everybody, but we all went to study together, for example. But why? Because you are the daughter or the son of this ambassador, you are going to get the job. Why there is no transparency and why there is no way to study normally and to get a job like a normal citizen without knowing somebody. Of course, we have the discrimination everywhere. In Vienna, we call it vitamin B, which means you need to know somebody to do something. But discrimination is one of the key factors in Africa, you know, because if you're not from my tribe, no, I'm not going to work with you. If you're not from my village even, it's complicated. And the lack of information. People mostly are keeping the information for themselves, you know. They are not sharing the good information with others. And unfortunately, we don't have the tools to provide the information and to share with everybody at the same time sometime in Africa.
Before you go away from that, I want to ask, are you sharing enough information about the hardship faced by Africans living in Europe to Africans in Africa?
We are trying our best because many of our activities, we have the live mainstreaming, we have a website to communicate, and we have a strong link with Africa. Right now, we are trying to have an ambassador in each African countries, for example, to try to give more visibility to our activities and to see how we can work closely with Africa as well. But information means as well, you understand. And right now, a few people are ready to pay for it, and we are trying our best in this area. And one of the motives is perspective and hope. Perspective, we've been talking about it the last 2 days. But what do we mean by perspective? Of course, we have resources in Africa, like my brother said. Of course, Africa, we are young people, we can work. But we are not eating this now. They've been telling us this story for a long time right now. What do we have concretely right now in Africa to stay? Let me know. Go to the slum. See if there is hope there or perspective for the young people. We don't have. But everybody knows about it, African and non-African. What are we doing? The solidarity matters, not more.
And if, like she said, the ambassador, I don't have anything to lose, I'm leaving. Only God can help me on my way sometime. I mean African young people. And if we want to change that, there is something in Europe they call job for the future. I was wondering, one day I was in a panel with one of the director of ILO. He said, I don't know what it will be, but we've been doing many research. It will be 80% of technology, you know, numeric and all those things. But in Africa, we don't know our future. In 20 years, what will be the future of Africa? Which kind of job we will need in Africa? Should we continue following Europe with the technologies they are developing, or we have to do some research ourselves to know what we want in order to create more jobs? Because the solution is creating jobs for young people and developing entrepreneurship. We need to talk about it to see in 20 years, we want to be there. In the future of Africa, we need this. We have uranium. I cannot assure you that we are not going to build one day in Mali our own nuclear bomb, okay? It could be a possibility because in Korea they are making a lot of money through those games, you know. And what could we do really in 20 years? Which agriculture? I will go for it. I used to have this discussion many times when I came back home with my dad. The first resources of my country, I will say gold. He said, no, it's agriculture. We need to do that. But how can we make agriculture sexy for our young people? We use the word sexy because young people like sexy and attractive, you understand? How can we invest money there in technology to make sure that we'll have enough food? Because once we have food, you know, we can be more creative, we can be more innovative, you know. And the technology in the agriculture in Europe, I was wondering, they subsidize it. They are giving money to farmers to produce more technologies, to produce more food for the European. And the key in the cooperation should be to develop some partnership, private and public, between those countries with technologies and our young people. If we don't have those technologies, how can we be able to produce? Do you think that I'm going back home and trying to start like my grandfather to do agriculture? Never. I prefer going to do some other job and look for something and buy the food, buy the rice in China to do it. We need to focus. If we say agriculture, it doesn't mean like our grandfather was working. I had the chance to invite the second biggest farmers from Nigeria last month. I think Ernest was there. But he's doing amazing things in Nigeria. Agriculture is not only producing, but they have all evaluation they develop around it. You see? And we need those kind of things. We need to showcase what others are doing in Africa, to exchange knowledge and information around what is going on. Because it's easy to me to reproduce what is going on in South Africa than what is going on in Vienna. You know, African experience to share among ourselves and to try to develop those things. And something else about the young people. Of course, we need innovation, we need informal training, we need vocational training, and we need to go to the university, education, I mean. How can we make sure that our education will sustain? One more time, I will focus on partnership, because once we can share knowledge, we can achieve a lot. One more time in my case, when I've been doing the forum in Vienna, and I met a lot of amazing people from the US to Europe, to Africa. And I asked some, I'm going to open an incubation center in Mali. Are you ready to come for free in Mali to train the Malian young people? One of the professors said, of course. I'm from the US, I'm from Portland State University, and we have the best incubation center. And he came to Mali for free. The classes he's giving for $10,000 per semester. He came to Mali to train about 30 young people for free. Those kind of service we need to cooperate more, to exchange more. So we will be able in the future. Let me add some 2 points before closing. Yeah, okay. And the funding, the African young people, we've been writing a lot of proposals, but there is no possibility to get funding to run our own project. We need to invest in the young people, and we need to change the nature of our project. Of course, it's very good to help the others, but the social entrepreneurship should be the key in anything we are doing to sustain our own businesses. I cannot only sit here to say, maybe we'll get this grant from this organization. Because the grant, each 3 years they are changing. It depends on the objective of the partners. Today, they want to strengthen the capacity of the young people. Tomorrow, they want to face other disasters. And then your project after 3 years, you cannot continue. But you have to make sure that you have a component to make sure that you will get some money, like my brother, Mr. Mehdi, is doing, to make sure that you will continue doing this job. And the last point is why I should stay in Africa. My country needs to brand my country. Right now, Mali was in the red color because Europe decided, unilaterally to put it. Mali is the danger, nobody should come. Where are our media? Not Mali is 1.3 thousand kilometers, 1,300,000 kilometers. But I will tell you the half of my country is safe. But our media are not talking about, they even not say anything positive about the country. The only African country trying to branding himself a bit is Rwanda. Rwanda is not the El Dorado. Rwanda is not the place even where I am going to open a business because I've been many times there. But once today you will see Rwanda around the world, everybody will say, wow, they are doing well. Because they are trying to sell, to give a good image of their country. And we don't have any image. Kampala, Uganda is doing very well, but we don't know about it. Do you have a national policy to make sure that the young people will say, wow, my country is amazing, I have to stay and develop, be part of the change. But there is no movement, there is no change. So those are the reasons. If you can help us to fulfill those conditions, we'll stay in Africa.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. And we have one last presenter before I give the mic down to my colleagues. I think one point you mentioned, which is very important, is about creating connections and partnership. We need to strengthen the partnership between youth in diaspora and youth home. We don't need to create a feeling where they are going to be rich and I remain to be poor. At some point, I skipped classes. I skipped from P1, I studied on a P1, but when war intensified and I was displaced for many years, I skipped from P1 to P5.
You're a genius.
I don't know if it's genius or madness, but one of those. But when I went from P1 to P5, the reason was I said, I'm not going to go to P2, P3, P4 because my age mates are already in P6. I don't want anyone, all my age mates to be my teachers, my doctors, my what. That kind of feeling, that momentum, it creates that leapfrog jump, dive or whatever you want to call it. So thank you so much. We need to, the moment we need to bypass the system in order to change the system. Finally, to Jude Nyanzi, is a founder of DAYSTAR School in Uganda. Are you teaching people how to stay in Africa or what? In 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Victor. Thank you very much for welcoming me. The young people should analyze the SWOT analysis. I know most of you know the SWOT analysis. As a young person, you should know your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. It has helped us a lot as young people in my community. I come from a big slum, as my friend MUHAMMED is called Kirombe slum after Katwe. It is a very big slum, and I grew up from there. We began with an organization, and we found out that it did not work out. And then later we analyzed the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats around us. So we mostly capitalized on the strength amongst us. And then we went in the community and asked the community what project would be best for the community. And then they told us an education project. But still, with our research, we knew that we needed a school in our area because many children were not going to school at an early age. So we began an elementary school and a primary school called DAYSTAR Junior School with a mission to raise a star, a daily star. So that's why we named it DAYSTAR. And we have done well, and When we began, we had 173 children the first term, but now we have 396 children. That shows the urgency and the need of the school in our area. And many children are still coming in. We basically provide the basic education, numeracy, numbers, literacy, how to read and write at an early age, because we found out that many of them were not going to school. It is very hard to deal with slum children, you know. They come from homes of illiterate people. The parents have never gone to school. They know nothing about education and the value of education. And we have tried to educate the mind and the heart. Most schools educate the mind only. But we are doing both. We are educating the mind and the heart. And we have many refugees from Southern Sudan, from Congo, and from Burundi. Our refugee population amounts to like 25 children. And we are coexisting. We are the same. We don't talk about segregation. We are all Ugandans in our schools. That's what we say. And it has helped us a lot with education, the national curriculum, coupled with the life skills. The life skills are very important. We talk about so many things like integrity, honest, transparency. We talk about care, the attitude, responsibility, and tolerance. There are so many life skills that we teach. And we have a very good module in our school. We address issues inside. If we receive many wild children from the slum, and we task the teachers to identify life skills which are missing in these children. Every child comes with a different idea of school. For instance, we have identified missing life skills like playing. Children don't play very well. They play with anything they find. They can play with a glass, they can play with stones, they can play with anything. So that is a life skill which is missing. So we identify it and then talk about it. You're supposed to play like this, don't play here. You're supposed to play like this. We have also identified life skills of like many of them are not, what can I say, are not really happy with the education. So they think that they are studying for nothing, there are no jobs and so on. So we develop programs like, are you thinking of staying in school? Are you thinking of dropping out of school? Stay in school to learn more and earn more. And we talk about so many things inside, goal setting, long-term goals and short-term goals. The attitude, the mind, you need to change your mindset, the way you think about education. And it has worked for us very well, and we are very happy. We constantly add on the life skills we find, and then we teach them. I really want to task the young generation. Yes, we have so many problems, but we have to be responsible young children. So the youth has to be responsible. I myself have found problems to work with the youth. The youth are not transparent. The youth are not transparent. That is, yes, we are crying, but the world is there to help us. But some of us are not transparent. We are not accountable. So we need to work on the moral issue. We need to work on our morals. And that's why we are addressing it in our school at an early age. That this is how you are supposed to behave as a young child. When I was growing up, I was told to behave, to be responsible. My grandmother taught me this, and it has helped me in my life. We shall dwell on so many things, the problems we have, but if you don't deal with the mind of a person, you are actually wasting your time. We need to deal with the mind. We need to tell the young people to be transparent. It's very important. They need to be accountable. They need to be honest. They need to be time managers, good time managers. If you are told to come at 9, come at 9, not at 10. And you say this is the African time. So things within us also are keeping us behind. So that's why we put up this school, to bring up a new generation, to bring up responsible children who know what is important in the community or in the society. So I'm very happy. We have used many modules. We have used the social media. We have used the internet. We have built websites. We have called in volunteers from all over the world. They are coming. Every month we have a volunteer in our school all over the world. They come, they share with us ideas. We talk about so many things. They expose the project. I'm here because of social media and the internet. So as young people, we need to bring in technology and our moral values and everything so that we can go to another level and build a better future for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Before you hand over the mic, you have spoken very eloquently about integrity of the young generation. I do believe, yes, it's a challenge. We are blaming they are corrupt, they are dictators, they are in power, they are tribal, they are all this kind of negative identification we can give to our leaders in power. But how much are we preparing to be different from them? Well, the call to action that he made very clear is, how can we raise the generation of young people with anti-corruption attitudes? How can we raise the generation of young people with a spirit of tolerance, who are able to glue our country, divided cultural nation, to glue it, cement it, so that we can form a nation that we call home? Somehow, in 30 seconds, people always have picky thinking about schools. What do you think about what do society perceive your school? Do they want to go to KISUBI or want to go to DAYSTAR? And in 30 seconds.
Yeah, we have built a very good school and everyone wants to join it.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellent. That is very good. Thank you so much. Let's give a big hand to them before I can hand over the mic to you. You have had it very well. I don't want you to ask them questions, but I want you to contribute. And let's be, none of us is an expert here. We are all the same.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Very loud and clear.
Thanks. Thanks to all the presenters for your presentations and your perspectives. Just allow me a couple of consideration and one. Yes, so a couple of consideration and one suggestion. The discussion is about what might be some options for young Africans or Africans to stay. Well, I want to tell you that the majority of people are already staying in Africa. It's a tiny portion of Africans that is actually moving to Europe. So my suggestion is, in Europe, we tried to fight the image of Africans flooding the European continent. Now, what I've seen is that too much emphasis was put on Africans moving to Europe, which numerically it's probably less than 10%. So, even less. So, my suggestion is, if you go and engage with the EU or European, don't pass that image that we in Europe, we are trying to resist. So this is my first. So rather than that, I think you should channel your energy in harnessing forms of regional and continental mobility, because I think that's what is really needed in Africa. The second point is, what I perceive is that we still frame migration as a failure, as a result of underdevelopment. But that's not the case, or that's not always the case. We live in a mobile and transnational world, so we cannot expect people to stay put in their country. What do we mean by development? Is that development means that you have to stay always in your country of origin? I don't believe so. So there's nothing wrong to live as long as you keep some ties or some connections with your country. And look at what Yusuf did. He left, but it's still beneficial for his continent and for his country. The third point is that we also need to go beyond the dichotomy of forced migration and economic migration. There's literature, research, we've moved away from that, from the image of migration as desperation. There's more than that. Mobility is very complex. There are various forms of migration, student mobility within Africa. What about entrepreneurs in Africa? There are new corridors. Africans, business people that are trading with China. That's also mobility. It's also migration. It's not out of desperation or poverty. What about cross-border movements between African countries? That's part of African socioeconomic history. So just to conclude, my suggestion is really put a lot of emphasis on the free movement of people within Africa, because what I perceive is that for you, home is not the country where you come from, but it's Africa. And then let me close by, I just want to say thank you to all of you and the organizer. I can't stay until the end of the day. I have to leave at 11. So I would like to thank you, wishing you all the best, and I hope that in the Abidjan meeting, some of the your recommendation will be taken into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful contribution and safe journey back home. And you send our regards to everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Well,
just 1 minute, 1 minute, make it 1 minute so that we can have other people.
Of course, I mean, if it's not important, I wouldn't make my contribution. But the funny thing is, what I wanted to say, he has just opened my mind. That again, yeah, I mean, because even yesterday when I was talking about narratives. Yeah. Migration is not a bad thing. When you say, how do you make people stay home? You create alternative. Yeah, it's good, but you give the impression that migration is bad itself. You say, when you give birth to people, they think of migration. They think of migration as an aspiration. There's nothing morally wrong in that. The question should be, how do we make African youth more resourceful, more creative? So with that, nobody will be thinking about migration. We'll be talking about mobility. Yesterday, somebody said there's a difference between migration and mobility. Then when you talk about mobility, it helps. It's even part of education. So that should be the conversation. And one last point. I come from a place in Nigeria called the Niger Delta. Niger Delta holds the petroleum reserve we have in Nigeria. Now there are about 7 states in Niger Delta. I come from Edo. I have a friend who comes from Rivers State. And we both attended the Niger Delta University somewhere in Bayelsa State, in the heart of the Niger Delta. We have all the resources. My friend graduated with first class in petrochemical engineering. Don't forget we have resources, petroleum resources. He applied to be employed as a graduate assistant. He was refused because he is not an indigenous of Bayelsa State. He went to the UK, did his master's and his PhD, came back 2 years ago, lived with me for 3 years. Lived with me for 3 months. Applied to be a lecturer in the university in Nigeria, in Qatar, in the UK. He was not employed in Nigeria. The UK, the Birmingham University in the UK, and the University in Qatar employed him. He's in the UK now. He's lecturing. And you complain of brain gain. So he built his capacity. And he becomes useful. So the question is, how do you become useful? And he talks to me every day. He comes, his family is here. And he's planning to relocate them to the UK. And he still has that connection. So the question should be, how do we become creative? How do we become resourceful? How do we become innovative? So that we begin to also create machines that will displace people from employment. We should think about ourselves. That way, the discussion will be about mobility, and not necessarily migration anyway.
Thank you very much. And my sister was the third, yes?
I respect the gathering. I'm Jane, the youth leader, BDBD Zone 5. I'd like to talk about raping. We young girls and women, we are the victim of that. And we know when someone is a victim of rape, at least within 24 hours, she has to to be taken for checkup. But in Bidi, we have young girls who are victims, but when you report it to police, they will not take any action against that. You will work for more than 1 week until you get tired. No one will respond to you, and that one affects our health. Other girls even end up being pregnant and they drop out from school. That one affects also child education. So this one goes to the ambassadors of women and girls. You need to make sure our girls are safe and they are educated. Also, I would like to talk about youths with disabilities. This one goes to AU and EU. Is it useless to educate those ones with disability? If not, we have youths. What is your plan for our youths who are disabled? Because currently in Bidi youths with disability, they are staying. And daily they are complaining. They are wishing, I wish I could be upright. I wish I could be normal so that also I walk to school the way others are doing. You people have to look for possible way. Currently, our youths with disability, they are affected psychosocially. You need to look for possible way to make sure they are free from the trauma that they have in their hearts. And thanks.
Thank you very much, my sister from Bidi. Those are the authentic voices from the source. They inform their thinking. They pierce through the intellectual world we are existing. And they are not just stories, they are authentic reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I respect the panelists and the good ideas that they have shared. And the paradox is that we are suffering from the idea that there is no job, but while Africa is full of resources. Look, the Chinese are coming in abundance to create job for themselves. And many African young people are leaving their own country and the continent as well. What is lacking? The idea that the visionaries are lacking. These are the visionaries. They have created jobs, they have created organizations, but many are leaving. Let us not be desperate that you have created some organizations and under you, there are many people who are working, young people. So encourage that vision to continue and retain young people here within Africa. You see, at times we need to laugh to ourselves. Because the Chinese came and they are, first they were road builders. In Ethiopia, they employed some young people and some elderly. And when the Chinese are around, they work. When the Chinese are away a little bit, they lean on the shovel that they have provided. Then the Chinese cut the shovel and shortened it because they cannot lean on it. We have the ways how to maneuver things. They sat on the shovel that they have cut and they stay there. Friends, we have resources. What we lack, leadership deficit is costing us. So, young people, as you have said that you are the leaders of tomorrow, please work on that deficit, dismantle that deficit and work on leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The two,
Thank you very much. My name is Moses. I'm from Uganda. I have two things to talk about. One, as Africans, we need to realize our competitive advantage. Africa is an agricultural continent. It's a shame it's a shame and pity to us if we import food from China, US, wherever. In case there is hunger, if there is hunger in Zimbabwe, Uganda, it's a shame that we import food, yet we can grow food. We need to recognize our strong competitive advantage and take use of it. Countries that have grown realize their strength and utilize it very well. Personally, I'm a farmer. I have decided to carry on farming as a business and to inspire other youth in the community to take up farming. So I grow food around that I consume and then the neighboring communities. We need strong role models in Africa. We lack models in Africa. There's nobody to emulate in Africa. We need strong role models that people will be able to see. Like, for example, our neighbors, Kenya, when the elections were cancelled, there was no fighting, there was no violence. They're going for the next elections. So it's really a good sign to us, and other countries will try to copy and be like Kenya. So we need strong role models. Lastly, one thing I have to talk about is ethics. We need ethics. I had an opportunity to get to venture capitalists. I was in Israel, I had visited, and then when I was talking to them, why don't you invest in Africa? They were saying, in Africa, if you sign a contract, it is not valid. Somebody will not. We need to get back to the ethics and have ethics as Africans.
Yeah.
And then we shall have a strong continent.
Thank you very much. We have less than 10 minutes, but let's first give her, then we'll come to you in 30 seconds each.
There are many problems that they all start.
It's okay. It's okay.
But they all start with us, and sometimes end with us. There's a saying in Ghana that Ghana is corrupt because the University of Ghana is corrupt. And we know all our past 3 presidents came through the University of Ghana. When you go to University of Ghana today, you have over 40,000 students. And part of the fees they pay is called Student Representative Council dues. And then they pay junior common room dues. If you multiply 40,000 by 10 Ghana cedis, what do you get? 4.4 cedis make $1. So the students are actually donating over $40,000 every year to SRC. And there are executives who go and spend some of this abroad on holidays. And students don't complain about that. They are talking about the president who is corrupt. But the president was student. So I would like to suggest that our students become very participatory kind of representatives when they are on campus and check some of these things. So when they go out, they can continue with that lifestyle. Now, raping girls and going to hospital, police station and having nobody. It's high time we have women police also at the police stations. Why is it that we continue to have only men in most police stations? It's very simple. If you go and you report to a female, it's very likely that you'll be held. And why are we waiting to get the police to take action? Why can't we have just one mobile phone? How much does it cost? In every village. If a girl is raped, that mobile phone is just available. And there are a number of things we don't have to wait for that government in Kampala or Accra or Lagos or wherever to come and fix for us. I think our innovation has to take care of some of these areas where we think about how to fix things very quickly. This one, I'm in support of it. Quick fix for problems which we can handle in our own communities. And then finally, we should also know that the youth are going to become adults. And if we don't challenge the systems that exist, you go into it and there will be no change. We've been voting for females to go into parliament, but the system will not even allow them to talk in parliament. Sometimes they complain that even when you raise your hands, you will not be called.
Yeah.
Why? And so many other things are very difficult to actually change, because the person who should make the change is not able to do it. So let's think about the problems that are barriers to the change that we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I don't know if it will be totally problematic. I was going to, because I'm supposed to give them 1 minute each, but can you say it in 30 seconds, please?
Peter Katkos, then from Bidbidi.
Yeah.
What I want to throw back to you is food security. But when we talk of food security, now in Bidbidi camp, those refugees, they took 3 months minus giving food out for them, and yet that area, which is called Bidbidi, is a rocky area whereby they cannot even dig. There's my question to all of us, we African, and back to the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My sister, the member of parliament, will be the last person to contribute. I know politicians doesn't keep time, but she will keep time. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. A lot has been said and very good things have come out. As a lawyer, I would have really said I have nothing to add. But I just want to guide. All these things will remain here if you don't push it out. So go back to your places, your countries, engage the leaders, and put all these things in your policies and in your legislation. I want to talk about Uganda. All this job creation, wealth creation, skilling the youth is already in the current government manifesto, but it is also in some of our policies. And it is finding its way to our legislation. So the only guide I'm asking you to do is please just do that. And to my sister from Ghana, I thank you so much for saying, have the right people in the right places, in the right institutions. Here in Uganda, we don't have that problem because affirmative action has taken firm root in that in every police station, there is a woman. In every checkpoint or security point, there is a woman to take care of the female whatever. And in parliament, the women here talk because the speaker of the Ugandan parliament is a woman. And she will never leave a hand up. She will always take that hand. I
thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let me come back to my colleagues up front here. In 1 minute, if you can just say something in 1 minute.
To tell the youth to find out their opportunities, their strength, so that they can be the change they want to see in others.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yusuf?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to add some few things. I will start by my brother and my friend.
In 1 minute.
Moses. Yes.
In 1 minute. European time, actually.
Okay. The ethics problem is not the youth problem. I think it's an African problem. A lot of, investors. I used to work with a lot of investors. They refuse to come to Africa because they are not safe here. People can take everything from them, and there is no justice. And to be more innovative, we need to put really many things in place. Like we need to organize activities like pitch competitions to make sure that the young people will come and challenge themselves to come with a great idea will be funding. And we need as well for the discrimination more job fairs. We need to make space where young people can directly meet the decision makers. And at the last point, the role model matters. He was talking about it. Like Johannes was saying, the leadership matter is important, but we are all leaders in this room. That's why we are here. But we need more role models and multiplier effect. We need to go back to show, hey, this happened here, to play this role, to show to the other young people that it's possible. with the role models, we'll see they are the example of the society that we can build something from nothing as well.
Thank you very much, Yusuf. Back to my brother, ABILA.
I'll be quick. One, on the issue of role models. The role models are there, but you need to find them. They are heroes in your societies. Find them. They are all around. I mean, Victor is here. Just Google him. You know, the role models are here. You need to find them. Don't only look at politicians as your role models. So find them.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, as I still have a few seconds left.
Yeah.
I've learned something today. It's mobility as opposed to migration. Thank you. That flows into our history. You know, all our folklores are full of mobility and not migration. And then thirdly, I would like to urge the youth today, skill yourselves for the future, not for the present. Otherwise, you'll still remain unemployed. And then finally, access to justice is access to peace and sustainable development. This is coming from me as a lawyer. The issue of contracts was raised, but if we don't follow the laws, then we are killing businesses. So be just as a youth.
Thank you very much. No peace without justice. Yeah, Mohammed.
Thank you. Like I started, I kept on, I tasked you to keep on thinking. But basically the definition was Europe is at stake. You can't sleep because Africans are hungry. And this is why we have these discussions. So my last contribution will go towards investment and opportunities. I attended a meeting at the EU, and this is what I said. If EU in Uganda is the biggest investor, is the biggest donor, and the largest budget of the EU goes towards infrastructure, can we see other infrastructures that can create opportunities for the young Ugandans? Let us look at sports. Let us look at the film industry. We well know The Queen of Katwe, which is a movie by Fiona Motes. She's a young girl from one of the slums in Kampala. We know the street kids who are commonly known as the ghetto kids. They are in the US right now, making news around the world. But it was just one video that is making them travel around the world because of their talent. But where do we invest the money? Where do we look at Africans' future besides the vocational training? So I would suggest that if we are going to think outside the box, let us look inside the box first. What is there? What talent is there? What opportunities are there? And then we can invest in those opportunities. We see the Lupita Nyong'os, we see them. But who do we see on the African TV? The Kim Kardashians? And then you won't expect our young people to dream of going to the United States? Let us be the Muhammadis on the TVs so that the young people say, I want to be like the Muhammad from Wise Islam, and he's here, I can see him. Yeah. That's the future of Africa, and I think that's the proper investment.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. And to my sister.
Thank you.
In 1 minute.
Yeah. My sister asked if people were patriotic, but the question is, does your country love you? When you're talking about sports, if you remember this boy who won the gold medal in at the Olympics, Kiprotich, he had no support. But after the government promised him support, and it never happened. So where is the patriotism? Does your country love you? You know? So, and my issue is, well, let's focus on, let's support youth projects. You know, we have been able to register a CBO with KCCA for the refugee community. Because I remember yesterday Bella was talking about no access to loans, but because they have no access to loans, they have been saving, and we have registered it as a CBO with KCCA. So, and as my final remark, as when it comes to the youth, let's focus on change of mindset. Motivate them to believe that things can happen here on the ground. They can make the change. What they lack is motivation. You know, we do job placement, but you'll identify a job, like maybe a restaurant, you tell the youth, oh, there's this job you can go, and say, I can't do such a job. But these are the same jobs that they are trying to go to Europe to do. But when you identify such, someone tells you, no, I can't do such a job, you know, and they're the youth. So it's about the mindset, you know, focus on motivating them to change their mindset, to believe that anything can happen from wherever they are.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mindset change is key if you must move forward.
Thank you very much. And also, still about the youth, we were having a teacher, and of course teachers are the best parents, but I believe we are not unique youth. I mean, we have a lot of youth here who are doing amazing things. We are not unique, we don't have blue blood. And how come we are here? It all goes back to youth owning things. He was talking about youth working for the Chinese. They believe it's for the Chinese. Well, I mean, why should I push it so hard? But when they own everything, it is theirs, they jealously fight for it. It becomes, you know, we have to be involved with business, policy making, all that, so that we own everything, we jealously guard it. So even when we talk about the youth, they are irresponsible. Trust me, the panelists were the first people to arrive here. You know why? Because we are supposed to own this discussion, and we had to be here first, and we were here before everyone. So,
thank you. And Janine, the last.
I would just like to say thanks for enabling me to participate in this event and in the panel. I think there's a lot I have learned from this, but also there are a lot of recurring themes that have come up in our research with street youth and street children, and also with refugees. The issues around rape and not being listened to at the police station. Unfortunately, I've heard that many times before. These are all things that we need to find solutions to, but the answers, as ever, are with you and are in good hands. They're with you in Africa, but obviously we in Europe have a role to play as well, and I hope that we can continue to collaborate, and I wish that the findings from this meeting can contribute to the summit in November and make a real impact there. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Give a big hand to my colleagues, and thank you so much for all your deliberation. I also want to...
My dear, we have to take a step. We have to take a step. What I always tell the girls is, you do not have to wait for that person to come and solve these issues. Currently in Uganda, we have been having a lot of issues actually to do with sanitary towels, and the reusables, these sanitary towels that we are using today in school, I think have come just 10 years back, before our mothers were menstruating, but they were not using these modern sanitary towels. But they went to school, and they were living, and there was no trouble about sanitary towels. But today, it's a very, very burning issue. Why? Because young girls and young women are sitting and laying back, relaxing, waiting for someone to. In the camps, there are health centers.
Yes.
There's police. My dear, you should always fight. I don't know. It is Africa. You don't wait for things to reach you. We were talking to the girls, reaching out to the girls with issues. But if you hide there, you'll not be supported. We have to take the first step.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We need to close now because the time is up. They are closing this, the room. So, ladies and gentlemen, I also wanted to say I should stand right now because we know for sure that 40% of the world population are living in countries which are not their places of origin, meaning we are a generation on the move. Information came that migration is not bad. Yes, it is true, but that statement must be said in the right place, because if it is said in the wrong place, can inspire more move, more risk, more desperation and all that. Of course, we know when you are in intellectual space, that's how we say it, but when you go to the community, we need to package in a way that is friendly. And then young people, I know you should realize you are a quiet force for change in Africa. You will definitely be the change Africa is looking forward to, and the generation we have been waiting for far too long. But I want to encourage you, be like the sun. No amount of darkness can stop you from rising. Keep up and stand up, and we make Africa a better place. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.